This month we have the Arthritis Awareness Month. In this context, we have developed a program called Environmental Measures to Prevent the Backache and Arthritis and its problems. On behalf of the DCCC Center Climate Change and COMHAD, Commonwealth Countries Disease and Development Disorders, and also Lakeside Education Trust, we have a great pleasure extending invitation for you for this meeting for interactive session. In the absence of our chairman, Professor Satish, we have with us Dr. J. Srinivasan, a man with less words and action deed, and also for him to officially welcome on behalf of the Western Climate Change to talk about. Let me talk personally without going through that one. Professor J. Srinivasan did its IIT graduate from Chennai. Then he did it MS in New York, and Stanford. He did it his PhD and worked there and came over. He is the founder of this institute, DCCC Center Climate Change, from 2009 up till 2016. Now he's a special professor, and also he's the professor and emeritus for the oceanic science, atmospheric and oceanic science. And also he was the International Political Climate Change editorial board, and third and fourth year did it, and IPCC report, what we call, has done it. More than anything else, he is a man believed in the carbon footprint and climate change. He uses a public transport from house to come over here. From here to gate here, 1.5 kilometers, he uses bicycle. So last month we nicknamed the carbon footprint person of this center. Nicknamed it last month. And also he encourages educational activity. It is something great. Anything he points out, immediately he don't tells anything like that, something to work on that. It keeps us on our toes, makes us very proud and happy for his comment. We are always looking forward to his comment. Very simple man, humble, and he practices what preaches it. That's what I told you while walking that one. And also late Nobel laureate Sir C.V. Raman was his uncle. I always use this. Many people don't know that. And we feel very proud to extend an invitation for him to come here and officially invite the speaker and the talks. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Welcome you all for this monthly seminar series that Dr. Parmesh has organized for the last 2 years on issues related to environment and health. And today is invited a very eminent rheumatologist, Dr. Dharmanand, to give this talk. So I request Dr. Parmesh to introduce the speaker. Okay.
The next is just to introduce the subject and the speaker and the chairman. And low back pain. This is, I included it. It was, he's an arthritis man. I included low backache because it's quite common. That is the pain below the rib cage and about the first crease of the buttocks. In that area, what it comes is called backache in that area. And that is the most common cause pain in the back all over the world. And 8% of all adults in the United States of America have chronic back pain, and that is the 6th most costliest condition to have. And it varies with the different countries regarding the backache. This is something we have to take into consideration. We have to learn from him. Germany, it is at 13.7% low backache. China, 64%. India, 80%. Bangladesh is the highest, 90%. Why it is, we don't know yet. Various things, genetic pattern, whatever it is. We'd like to little more about highlighting these issues. Recent study from Brazil says that chronic low back pain in the age group of 24 to 39 is 4.2%. In the age group of 20 to 59 is 19.6%. And above that age is 25.4%. And the causes of backache, what are the environmental, considering only environmental issues, what are the causes has been appreciated in India is disruption of the sleep, which enhances the sensitivity to painful stimuli. That's number one. Number two, work-related factors, worker and needing high physical effort, long working hours, psychosocial factors, and poor posture, sitting in a different way, poor postures. Excess alcohol, smoking has greater prevalence for the back pain. Having said these brief on the backache and arthritic problem, we have none other than one of the eminent rheumatologists to talk about these issues. He is none other than Dr. B.G. Dharmanand, and he is currently the president of the Indian Rheumatology Association and the consultant rheumatologist at Vikram Manipal Hospital and Rheumatology Clinic and Immunology. And he did his MBBS in Madurai Medical College in 1987, MD in Mysore Medical College, and DM in Rheumatology in Madras Medical College in 1996. He is a special registrar of rheumatology at the South End Hospital in UK nearly for 2 years. He involved in teaching DNB, MD, and DM in rheumatology students, and is an examiner for rheumatology fellowship examination at St. John's Medical College and Shankray, Riker, and Care Center in Kochi. He published many articles. It published national, international journal, peer-reviewed journal, and many chapters in many textbooks. He served as an expert committee member in developing Indian guidelines on rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis. He is the principal investigator in vaccine guidelines developing project from Indian Rheumatology Association 2020 till now. He is the director of community service of the Rotary International RT Nagar, sir. And it's a great honor. I know him for many, almost 20 years. We were together for 2 years in Lakeside. We were together. He's a man with a simplicity and all this. His daughter doing, son doing in the USA PhD and all this thing. And he's such a busy man. He sees about 30 to 40 patients per day. And he's appointed booked for January. There are no appointments. So such a most sought after person. And with all this thing, he could be able to make it here. We are very grateful, sir. Thank you for this. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. My sincere thanks to Professor Paramesh for this kind invitation to be addressing this audience in this August Institute. I would have never imagined that I would come and talk to somebody in Indian Institute of Science. So we always think that it's beyond our reach. So it's a great day for me as well. And it's nice to know sir and to be give a talk in his presence. And that Paramesh had given you a good introduction about the importance of back pain. So today I will focus more on back pain and a little bit on osteoarthritis. And being a rheumatologist and clinical immunologist, I will touch a little bit on autoimmunity. And because it's a small crowd, please raise your hand. We can be very interactive. And Paramesh had just mentioned what is the meaning of low back. This is the area between the lower rib cage and the gluteal fold. It may look attractive for us to see, but if the woman has a back pain, she would be living in a hell. And epidemiology has been touched by Professor Paramesh. Most of us get at least one episode of back pain during our lifetime. And in those who get, it can be recurrent. Unfortunately, good news is most of us get better. I think some of you would have got a small episode of back pain, some catch here, would have got better. But 20 to 30% it can remain chronic. And in 5 to 10% of the patient, it can be disabling. So you look at the number. So there's a huge number of people who have a chronic disabling back pain. And there's some more statistics. And 40% of the adults had back pain lasting for more than 1 day in the last 12 months. These are all statistics more from United States. We have some data, even in rural India, about 3 to 4% of the people have back pain at any point of time. And 15% of these patients said they have back pain throughout the year. And third of them, it restricted their activities in the last month or so. So it goes on like that. And the basic theme is it's common. It does cause significant difficulties in performing day-to-day life. And also it is a huge factor in quality of life, determinant of quality of life. So where does the back pain come? The back pain can come from anywhere from the skin of the back to the brain. So the structures there are vertebrae and fascia. Fascia is a tissue between the skin and the muscle, and ligaments which join the bones and joints. And there is a joint in the buttock, it's called sacroiliac joint, discs and muscles. So any of this can be the cause or a source of back pain. The common example which you would all could relate is fracture. If you see any little older grandmothers with a bent posture like this, they would have had fractures in their spine. The popular image you can get is Mother Teresa. She was in the last day, she was like this. She must have had multiple fractures in her thoracic vertebrae. Other causes, you can have infection in the bone. Tuberculosis can come in the bones and joints of the spine. That can cause back pain and even lead to paralysis. They're all extreme cases. Cancers can sit in the back, any of the bones. They're extremely uncommon. The most common cause of back pain is non-specific back pain. That means we don't know why they had, right? Medical term for it is idiopathic. And one of my friend who is no more, he used to say idiopathic means doctors are idiotic and patients are pathetic. And he also alluded to psychological factors. Prolonged back pain may be associated with psychological disturbances. It can lead to behavioral changes, cognitive changes, affective changes, and a lot of vague symptoms. They feel irritated, they feel not comfortable, the interpersonal relationship is affected, their ability to do their work. I have few patients who was doing PhD in this own institution, commerce patients. They have a lot of difficulty doing their work. It's a two-way traffic. Back pain causes psychological problems, and psychological diseases also can increase the back pain suffering, or it can make them more aware of their bodily symptoms. So all of us may have some niggle here and there. We just shrug it out, move our body here and there and manage it. But if you are in a low mood, or if you are very anxious, or if your brain is in a heightened awareness mode, you become aware of it. So it comes to our attention. Then we start listening to it. Why this is happening here? Yesterday it was happening here. Today something is happening. That is how we are going to think forward, and brain goes into an alert mode. And after some time, it gets into a vicious cycle where pain leads to increased awareness leads to more pain. Another important factor is job satisfaction. Many jobs have been associated with back pain. The example is nursing. Nurses require a lot of bending activities. They transfer patients. We have seen one chair, they have to put one patient, 2 or 3 people, 1, 2, 3, they transfer to the other patient. If you have ever seen to an emergency room, they require a lot of physical activity, bending and lifting, caring for the patients. So that is one of the determinants for back pain. So what they did in a major study is recruited some 1,000 nurses. They followed them longitudinally for the next 4 or 5 years. I don't know the exact number of years, 4 or 5 years. We'll take it as 5 years. They saw how many patients developed back pain and determined what are the determinants. The activity. Some nurses are posted in places where they have to bend a lot. If a nurse is posted in a maybe outpatient, she will not require to do a lot of manual work. So people who are doing more manual work had more back pain, but the number one determinant was job satisfaction. Somewhere that can contribute to our pain experience. And Professor Hoffman, who used to write a lot about the chronic pain in all our textbooks. When I was training, wherever you read a chronic textbook, it used to be his lecture. He used to always tell this back pain and musculoskeletal pain are the reflection of current or ongoing predicament of life. So why some people become patients? Back pain is ubiquitous. If you go to a community and ask for back pain, and every other guy says, yes, I have back pain. But how many of them become patients? So what determines them to, what makes them a patient rather than somebody who manages themselves? A lot of things matter. One of them could be job satisfaction and financial issues, loss of social identity. And sometimes, I feel hard to say this, sometimes back pain is a excuse for failure. Right? In some situations, all these things happens in the subconscious level. Because somebody who wants to do something, I want to be medical, I want to be a doctor, they couldn't get it. At some point of they realize that they're not up to it. Sometimes you need a certain skills. They realize that, but somewhere our psyche will not accept that we are inadequate to deal with this. And probably some back pain which starts and that gets exaggerated. And that, but for my back pain, I would have done that. So this back pain pulled me down. So these are all different ways of interpreting. We don't know which is right or wrong. It sometimes it sounds very accusative, but it is what has been derived at through the long years of research. So to have a good musculoskeletal health, a lot of things are important. You need to have a good coordination and balance, because one of the way people get injured is if you don't have a balance, if you don't have a muscle strength, and if you have a balance, you trip and fall down. That's why elderly fall down, where they have a lot of difficulties. Vision is a problem, sometimes hearing is a problem, coordination is a problem, proprioception is a problem. So they may lose their balance and fall. You need a stable joints and also supple joint. Too stiff a joint also can be a problem. It can be sturdy, but if it's too stiff is also a problem. And of course, you need strong muscles. Sarcopenia is a major factor as we age. And of course, stronger the bones, better. If you fall down, if your bones are strong, you don't break a bone, right? So in a global burden of disease studies, musculoskeletal disorders as a group comes second most common, second only to cardiovascular and diabetes, that kind of a diseases put together. And when it is expressed as years of lost years lived with disability or quality of life issues. And there is substantial burden service gap. So burden is huge. You have seen that almost every one of us get back pain, but the hospitals, the health system don't look at it as a priority. The priority is for the heart attacks, which the disease which can kill quickly, and strokes, which are emotional, and somebody paralyzed feels sad for him, so that is emotional. And birth injuries, childhood injuries, and cancers, which are though very rare, but they caught the imagination of people because of its consequences, because people die. Musculoskeletal, we limp around with the back, you can hold the back, put a belt here, somehow we can survive. So, but the quality of life is not considered. So it's not an attractive, glamorous field for clinician researchers. So it doesn't attract top brains. And even when we were trying to become a specialist, the number one specialty was cardiology. I did try a couple of times, I didn't get it. And when I got it, I also got this. Then by the time I realized that I'm more fit for this, I became a rheumatologist. But of late, the rheumatology is the top priority. The first 20 ranks, 30 ranks, rheumatology is getting filled up. That's a good news. So there's a big fund crunch. So the musculoskeletal disorders are poorly funded. Diabetes is hugely funded, hugely funded. Everybody funds diabetes research because all can relate to us. Some of us, many professors, many politicians, many leaders, netas who fund, they are diabetic. They have a mother, 5-star diabetic. So they associate with this illness. It's hugely funded. And we have, because of this reason, the data is relatively poor. And data is, as you all know, you are people of science, data is the new blood. So the data is going to change how we are going to treat patients. Maybe after my era is over, maybe the next, when you guys are adults, and probably you will be treated by a Google doctor and treated by algorithms rather than doctors. Probably that's going to come. So the data is required and data driven. Your wearables will tell. Your Apple Watch will tell that your pulse rate is high, temperature is high 1 day before you get COVID, so that you can preempt it by going to a hospital and take the treatment before actual fever comes. It's potential possibility. So data is the blood, new blood, but we have less data in musculoskeletal disorders. Then I've got a provocative last sentence here. Sometimes seeing a doctor can be harmful. If you have back pain, if you have a very sick back pain, you can't walk, you are fever, you have fell down, broke a bone, you have to go to a doctor. But if you sit for a long time, after this conference, when you get up, you get a back pain, don't go to doctors. Go and take some stretches and go relax in the bed. Tomorrow you're likely to be all right. Why? Because yeah, sometimes a doctor's consult, I can't say doctor, the doctor's first experience with a doctor determines whether somebody with a minor musculoskeletal disorders go on to get chronic disease. Because as a doctors, because of the issues I have told, are less confident in musculoskeletal examination compared to cardiac examination or like examining nervous system. So, and we investigate sometimes without a clear-cut idea. Sometimes somebody's back pain, I don't know what it is, let me do an MRI. That is how, unless you have a pretest probability that I'm going to look for a disease and I do an MRI, if it is there, that is useful. But sometimes if I use it as a fishing expedition, it may not be very useful. And sometimes people treat that what is shown in the image. If you have seen a lot of people go around say that I have a L4, L5 spondylitis, doctor, I have a C4, C5 spondylitis, because it is not the cause for their pain, but it is what is seen in the MRI, because MRI is a sensitive tool which can pick up a lot of age-related changes and which may or may not be the cause for pain. And doctors also have difficulty in explaining what we have learned in medical colleges to a patient in a meaningful way. So when we say disc is prolapsed, people say your nerves are twisted like this. So when they use some this kind of analogies, people think that every time they get a back pain, they think the nerve is getting more twisted. So they stop walking. The more they don't walk, they call fear avoidance. The muscles get more and more weaker, and they are going to get more and more back pain. So that reinforces their belief that something is happening there. So they slowly get into a chronic disease mode from an acute self-limiting disease. So it is important for the first consult. If first consultant is very reassuring, no, it's got a simple back pain, 2-3 days, you will be all right. Take this medicine for a couple of days, go and be normal. That patients will do well. Somebody who scares you, no, you've got a disc prolapse, you have to be in the bed for 1 whole month. If they tell and they listen, many people don't listen. They are good. Those who listen, they get into chronic back pain. So whose responsibility? Don't mind, I'll take this jacket, it's very sultry. Whose responsibility is to reduce the musculoskeletal disorders? Government. Government can have policies. I'm not sure whether the Indian government has got a big policy on this, but the US government has at least that the exercise guidelines is there. So at least 5 days a week, you do 20 minutes of exercise, and 2 days a week, you do strengthening exercise. That is good for health. That kind of a guidelines is there. The moment the guidelines is there, it is perpetuated by propaganda or whatever you call it. And our Prime Minister has done a good propaganda on about yoga. So the more he does, maybe many reasons why he did it, but all this yoga, now people are doing, a lot of people have taken up yoga. And that is a very useful health initiative. And that is likely to lead to a much more fitter people who would have less likely to develop back pain in the future. Shifting the care from sick care model to a health care model or a preventive care model. That is one thing government could do rather than focusing on building a super specialty hospital. IIC is also building a super specialty hospital. The need may be a primary center where they give the initial first aid and take care of the basic symptoms. That may do much better job than more and more highly specialized. More and more highly specialized the doctors are, they become much more focused on. They know only about even orthopedic doctor who become a spine doctor, they forget about all the other orthopedic, they know only the spine. So we become much more restricted. Then everybody comes to that doctor will look like if you, what should I say, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Now there's a saying. So that is where it can lead to a kind of a wrong deviation in the healthcare system. So the focusing on healthcare model should be done by the government. And of course, in Karnataka, at least in Bangalore, the government have created a lot of parks. If you have seen, many of the parks have a nice gym equipments. And I see a lot of middle-aged women. I would have never imagined them doing an exercise, but they're all there doing all these cross trainers and other exercise cycles, etc. So that's a great public health measure. And public places where have a park where people go and walk, Lal Bagh, Kaban Park, all that kind of a parks. They create more parks, walking tracks, and of course, even town planning where priority is given to pedestrians. And some in front of IIC, if I have to cross the road, only way is to have to get the flyover. Otherwise, we cannot cross in the road. So because the roads were not designed for pedestrians, it are all designed for people who go by car. So if you go to old outer ring roads and MG road, pretty difficult to cross. You have to walk 1.5 kilometers to get a flyover and then the overhead bridge and come down. So if you can't cross here, so there is no zebra crosses and pedestrian friendly. Even most of the bridges don't have a pedestrian walkways. So that could make people walk more and take less car. So all these things can be a good public health measure only a government or a municipal corporation can do. And manpower development, government's responsibility, and they could use physiotherapists who are probably the best guys to deal with musculoskeletal disorders, generally neglected in our modern medical care. There can be the good triage doctors who can help people. And we'll discuss about what employers could do, what individuals could do with the subsequent slides. And do we have guidelines? Even I'm sure our government, I didn't have the time to go through, or I didn't have access to the Indian occupational guidance data. There are data, almost all countries have occupational health guidelines. Some of the simple, like organization of workflow, like if everything is well planned, otherwise people keep repeating it. They will change this room, somebody will come and say, put all the chair outside. Then after 5 minutes, another guy will come, no, put all the chair inside. So there'll lot of repetition, doing the same job again, shifting one to here, then again to here. If it is disorganized, that can lead to more people doing more manual work on a long term. So that can be organization and also designing. Like if I have a weight, carrying the weight to a lower place hurts me less than carrying it from a lower place. So they can design the workplace that sometimes you have to transfer from a bigger height to a lower height is better than lower from a bigger height. Getting the people closer to the body. If I want to lift anything, if I lift something from here, I can have back pain. If I go here and lift, I'll have less back pain. So these are the education and designing the workplace and also giving time between the work. If somebody is continuously, somebody is throwing here and you have to give it here, somebody is throwing here and giving it here. If there is no rest in between, the tissues can get fatigued and that fatigued muscles are more likely to get injured. So a lot of guidelines are there and there are occupational health department is there. Every institution, every factory has an occupational health doctor who is supposed to look into it. These areas are not very well developed anywhere in the world, not only in India. It's poorly developed all over the world. And one more reason why people get musculoskeletal injuries, back pain is the risk of fall. All of us fall once in a while, but more older we are, more likely to fall. and women fall much more than men. Some of the reasons are dark rooms, uneven surface, both at home and in the pavements, lack of railings and grabbing handles, poorly placed shelves, sudden reorganization of furnitures. Suddenly, my wife would decide, okay, I let the house, the entire sofa should come from sitting from here, it has to go there. Suddenly reorganized. And if there's an elderly gentleman in the house, who is so used to get up, even in the dark, he will know how it is the route to go to toilet. He goes and comes back, even if it is dark. But the lady of the house suddenly change the sofa from this angle to that angle, probably is likely to go and crash on it and fall down and have an injury. These are things we should be sensitive. And a new environment, if somebody goes to a new environment, sometimes we get up and walk. We know where our toilet is in the night. Sometimes if you go in the slide down in a hotel or in a hospital, you just go in the wrong direction and bang on something and fall down. New footwear, slippery soles, slippery surfaces, alcohol, sedatives. Elderly people are on sedatives. A lot of people don't sleep well. They take their sleeping pills. Pets, kids, toys, all these things can make us fall down. And sometimes a lot of elderly who need walking stick, they don't walk, they don't use because it is they take it as offensive, or they feel very shy to use. They ask us an 80-year-old lady who's struggling to walk, why don't you use a walking stick? You will fall down. No, doctor, do you think I've become old? So if you are not old at 80, so people are not able to accept that. That's seen as a handicap. Problem, there's a mental block. So that can contribute. So we need to educate them there. And I will also classify environment into home, road, workplace, and recreational space. These are the 4 environments we generally live, right? We'll just quickly run through. At home, we can fall down in our bathrooms. And if a maid has just cleaned with the soapy water, somebody walks in, we can slip and fall down. Anywhere, even whether it can be in a workplace, it can be in an airport, anywhere. And having a small bed lamp can be very useful to avoid falls in the night, particularly for senior citizens. And if at all use a light use the red light. Red light doesn't stimulate our retinal receptors, doesn't reduce the melatonin level. So keep your melatonin level up. So if it's a blue light or a red, it awakens up. Suddenly you think that when you wake up, it thinks that it's bright. Then it's very difficult for you to go back to sleep. And when there are a lot of kids at home, there are a lot of toys on the floor. Unless the kids are taught to repack and put them before they go to sleep, there can be all this stuff floating around in the hall. And if one of us land on the aeroplane, maybe a one-way ticket to heaven, we'll never know. And the ambulance can take us directly to the hospitals. Another place at home is a bed. We spend at least 7 to 8 hours, at least we spend 7 to 8 hours in the bed. And the bed can be a big source of back pain. The more saggier the bed, that because it has to support our body. It should not sag. So one part sags and another part goes. So that's where the muscle imbalance happens, chronic muscle tension happens, and wake up with a lot of back stiffness. So a firm bed is important, not foam, firm. It should not be springy, it should not be hard, it should be firm. So that is one thing at home. So one of the contributors. So these are the home environmental factors which are potential or modifiable. And of course, we all travel get up from the home and have a breakfast and try to travel. Sometimes roads can be like this. And first time I had back pain. One of the qualifications for me to give the talk is I had back pain. I still have back pain a little bit. And when I was going for a primary health center in a rural area in a motorbike 30, 40 years ago, that I fell down that actually my bike fell into the ditch. Then I had a catch and I could not move. That was my first experience with the back pain. So this can be one source. And of course, when you are traveling in Bangalore for work, either in a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, sometimes you may have to be in the road for hours together. That also can lead to sitting in a car, sitting in a bike for a long time without support. Can lead to, if that happens on a day-to-day basis, it can lead to more incidents of back pain. That also make people frustrated, but the frustration also contribute. Road rage, all this stuff. And of course, the platforms, manholes, all these things are potential source of injury on the way to work. And come to workplace. The good old days where modernization happened, people were in a conveyor belt of the modern times. If you have seen Charlie Chaplin's movie, that typically conveys the message. They're all conveyor message. They're continuously doing work without a pause. And even in India, if you look at the lower picture, it is some of the garment factories. These women and men sit in a sewing machine for 7 to 8 hours whole day, and they have only 10 minutes, 15 minutes break in between. And construction workers also work in a very awkward positions. Even our farmers work in a very awkward positions. And all our computer professionals, software industries, whether whoever is working with the laptops on a long-term basis, they're also sitting in a very awkward positions for hours together. So they all can contribute to both neck pain and back pain. And I also told you about nurses and doctors. And doctors also sometimes when they do complex surgery, neurosurgery, sometimes it's 8 to 9 hours one surgery throughout. And some of the surgeries take hours together, so they have to stand, bend, and do that. So that also can take a big toll on their back. And even the teaching professors, I don't know, they have 4 classes per day in a college, so they also have to be standing most of the time. Unless they have a luxury of a nice place like that, they can still sit like this and talk. But many of the schools and colleges may not have the luxury. And even the kindergarten teachers have to sit in the floor for a long time. And another place where we spend some time in our life, at least some of us, is our gym and exercise routine. And that is also a source of, because we don't warm up. Do you know which is the best time for exercise? Morning, evening, night? Any idea? No, that's most of us have the time in the morning, but morning we just wake up, muscles are stiff. All the ligaments are tight. So unless you warm up and do the exercises, you are more prone for injuries if you do the exercise in the morning. The best time to exercise is late afternoon and early evening, maybe 2 to 6. That's the time. Best time to exercise. That is where our muscles are at its peak ability. And we don't warm up, and we don't have a proper trainer. So the youngster suddenly decides that he has to bulk up, goes to the gym and works out. And then enthusiasm suddenly starts lifting bigger one dead weight, one day catch, and then he'll never go to gym again. So that happens. And of course, when we run, dogs can chase us, and when cycling, dogs can be a menace. I don't know, IIC has dogs or not. You guys cycle around. And of course, this is sports, even the elite sports people. I mean, many of our own sports guys, Bumrah, Kohli, everybody have some back pain. So even at the best of best athletes do suffer from injuries. Neeraj Chopra is now injured. He's not playing in Commonwealth. He has got a groin injury. So even the elite athletes are prone for injuries. Then what happened to some of us when you go to suddenly gym and do gym work like seasoned veterans? They're likely to get injured. Even yoga is a potential source of injury. Is there evidence that exercise helps? There are quite a few studies. In this study's conclusion is exercise, moderate exercises are helpful to prevent low back pain. And one of the occupational interventions which are shown to be beneficial is moderate level of physical activity, not very strenuous, not very light, moderate amount of exercises. And the evidence is there for exercise, stretching, flexibility, and endurance exercises, exercise and education. Education alone doesn't. Foot arthrosis and foot insoles, wearing this shoe, that shoe doesn't seem to make a big difference in preventing back pains. Lumbar support, back support doesn't have much evidence to prevent back pain. Workplace modification does have some evidence to say that modifying the way you do work definitely reduces the incidence of back pain. And also there is a meta-analysis showing that the general physical activity, not the exercises for back, general physical activity, guy who move around a lot, some jobs which require mobility. A server in a busy hotel is more physical activity than a guy goes to gym 1 hour in the morning and rest of the day sitting with the computer. He's much more physically active, he burns much more calories, and is much more fitter and generally less likely to develop back pain because he's always working. Our servant maids, most of our servant maids, they work for 4 houses, they work, they do. They are generally much more fitter. Unless they are doing a lot of bending activities, they are much more fitter. So general level of physical activity is also protective. And this is one good statement from Indian International Association of Society of Pain. They have mentioned few environmental factors, some of which Professor Paramesh has already alluded. Disruption to sleep may make the back experience worse because it reduces your pain threshold. When you have low pain threshold, you hurt more. If you don't, you would have noticed, if you don't sleep for 4 or 5 days, you generally hurt more. Even the minor injuries would hurt more. And also people who don't sleep well, and also one contributor could be poor quality of bed, may also increase the pain development. And work-related factors we discussed. Even the worker compensation claim, that has a psychological, psychosocial aspect comes here. Another important thing which I can quote from here is positional variation may be more important in preventing or managing back pain than correcting the posture. We all think that we should sit like this, we should stand like that, sit with the back support. So they are all important. When I have to stand and work, if I stand with one leg up, one leg down, I have less back pain rather than standing like this and talking all the time. That is important. Sitting with the back support is definitely helpful. But more important may be changing the posture in between. Every 2 hours of work, get up and do something. I would call it as an exercise snacking. Snack on exercise. Snack on exercise. You have 2 hours of work, you are working in a lab or you are working in a library. 2 hours, drink a lot of water. It will force you to go to the loo at least. When you are taking that break, do some stretches. Do whatever, depending upon your privacy, you can do anything. You can stretch, you can do stretch this, you do twist like this, you can rotate your pelvis. You can do something very simple. Even just do like this 10 times. That can be good exercise because this becomes tight when you sit for a long time. This becomes that flex, that which hip flexor area becomes tight. Our glutes become weaker. So we need to strengthen that and we need to stretch this. So even climbing stairs will strengthen this. Sitting and getting up from a chair 4 times. If you sit and get up 10 times and start doing your work, that can strengthen your thigh muscles and gluteal muscles. Stretching a little bit. Simple. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, do something, then go back to work. This is called exercise snacking. It can be a very, very useful prophylactic or a preventive measure rather than focusing on the exact posture. My eye should be like this computer. They're all good. But more important may be this. A regular leisure time activity, which we had discussed, a stressful life event we had discussed, and of course, the social life. That's why probably when we were students, we never had pain. We had always friends around us. The more we go, started working, social life comes down. So having a busy social life, active social life definitely is protective against musculoskeletal and many illnesses. So Italians drink a lot, smoke a lot, but in good old days, at least they used to have a communal dinner. Like in our villages, people could, the evening they put a common table chair like this. They bring in potluck, they bring their houses, they all drink and eat together, smoke. Probably that reason they were living longer than people who are much more isolated. So there are some good American studies. I can't remember the town where 60s when Italians migrated to that town. The town was made of predominantly Italians. Then hardly there were any cardiovascular deaths. There is not much of because surrounding the feeding hospital, there's nobody's coming from this village. So it became a study subject. So for many years, people studied why these fellows, they smoke, smoking is same, cholesterol is same, obesity is same, alcohol is same, eating also bad habit, good habit, that's the same. But only thing seem to be different is social life. The next generation of Italians, they became more Americanized. They started living in their own house, they built their own apartments in a cocoon. Then they started getting the same amount, the incidence of heart attacks and other stuff are same now at this moment with any other American towns nearby. So some elegant experiments like done to say that this maybe we can't dissect out and tell which component, but it's a social aspect. And smoking is definitely a risk factor for back pain. And there is no magic nutrition changes. If I eat chondroitin sulfate, glucosamine sulfate, calcium, vitamin D, doesn't seem to. Vitamin D is useful, but doesn't seem to on a large scale. It's not very. Doesn't make a big change whether you get back pain or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest. Difficult to tell this phrase to the students. Even my children seem to be living in the night rather than in the daytime. So, but having a circadian lifestyle, because every organ of our body has a circadian rhythm. We are not supposed to eat after sunset. Our best meal should be, last meal should be before 7, because that's the time. Even if you late at 10 o'clock, there's a melatonin, which is the night hormone, which gives us sleep, which will block the pancreas from producing glucose. So your glucose is not utilized, and you're likely to have high glucose in the blood for a longer time. So leading a circadian life, getting up early, 6:37, sleeping by 10:30, 11, 12 maximum, and exposing to sunlight in the daytime. Sometimes you work in a dark room all the time. At least you have windows here. Sometimes we don't have it. My hospital, I don't know whether it's raining or not outside, because we're living in a closed room with a blue artificial light. That's not enough. This is 1,000. This outside light is 1,000 times brighter than our brightest of bright lights. So getting outside light, all this is called circadian rhythm, circadian life, and that will probably keep you away from many illnesses, including back pain and musculoskeletal disorders. Last few slides about osteoarthritis. This is the most common arthritis, which occurs in predominantly older people above 50, at least 40. It is extremely difficult to have osteoarthritis below that age unless you have an injury. So knees and feet are the most common, so that can affect our ambulation. Once they get it, their mobility comes down. So those who want to lose weight, they get osteoarthritis, they can walk. So obesity is a common factor. Even at any age, even at 30 years, 20 years, obese people have more back pain. So back pain and neck pain, and also knee pain. So obesity is a risk factor for knee pain at any age. Older you are, more likely. Diet contributes to obesity. Exercise is protective, and diet and exercise combined together is much better. Injury is common, particularly football injuries, meniscal tear, breaking a meniscus. These are the injuries which can predispose people for future osteoarthritis. So if you are going for a workout sports, have a good warm up and play in a safe environment. Don't play cricket in an uneven surface. You are likely to, don't try to dive and have a catch when there is no lawn there. Sometimes and a cement floor, you try to dive like our Indian stars, we may injure ourselves. And smoking, these are all protective factors. If we don't smoke, if you have a good vitamin D status is adequate, and if you avoid big injuries to your knee, and if you are normal body weight, you are less likely to have osteoarthritis. Once you get osteoarthritis, of course, avoiding Indian toilets, sitting in a high chair, and protecting the joints from further damage, weight loss, and exercises all can be protect and help to manage the early osteoarthritis. Of course, later disease you would require surgery and medications. Another lifestyle I would recommend to you, circadian lifestyle. Just read about it. Just I've given you a few terms. Learn about it. It's okay now, but at least when you come out of these institutions, you try to follow that. Anti-inflammatory lifestyle is to eat healthily, which enough fiber-rich food. Fiber is there in your fruits, vegetables, and legumes. And have a colorful vegetables, colorful fruits, omega-3, fish and fish oil. Processed food, avoid. All our pizzas and junk food should be out. Eliminate trans fat. Trans fat is our vegetable oil and all daldas. Decrease the stress, get enough sleep, and exercise. This is anti-inflammatory. So if you practice this, you are less likely to develop autoimmune diseases, less likely to develop all the diseases. Some of the few slides I'll just skip. What we can do to increase the physical activity. There are nice parks, new gyms, parkways. Indian Institute of Science is a beautiful place to walk around, cycle around. Be physically active wherever you are, whichever place it is possible. Cycle to school, walk to school, and there are some places they have a dedicated cycle path. That will encourage more people to take up cycling and walking to go to school. But at this moment, many places are not friendly, not safe, and we daily get scared to send our children by cycle in the main roads because traffic is erratic and roads are not good and there is no dedicated line. But these are the things governments can promote wherever you live in a good society where it is possible, do this. And of course, encourage non-exercise physical activity. Non-exercise physical activity is taking a stairs rather than taking a lift. If we are 3, 4, 5, 6 floors, you can walk. Beyond that, 18, 20 floors, you take the lift. That's okay. And if you are going from one department to another department, you could walk rather than take up our motorbike or car to go there. If it is less than a kilometer, like Sardas walks from the entrance to here. It can be, it's called non-exercise physical activity. That's what I told you, exercise snacking. I told you an example of a busy hotel server who goes everywhere, goes and gives, he's always busy. If there are 7 to 8 is probably going at least 40, 50 trips to kitchen and the table. That guy will be fit. There's no need for him to exercise. Even that counts as an exercise. That counts as an exercise. And of course, preventing injuries, seat belt. We hardly use seat belt when we are sitting in the back, particularly if you are going in a very highway. Encourage whoever is sitting on the back to wear seat belts. In this cartoon, our hero Balakrishna is wearing the belt, but the heroine is not wearing the belt. They are going to have an accident now. The lady is likely to get injured. The man would be protected. And of course, wearing a helmet and avoiding this type of helmet. This never protects anybody. It's only saves us from the police. And of course, work environment. The center pictures show the ideal work position, the way you have to sit, what is the distance between your eye and the computer screen, etc. But work from, because most guys are working from home now, they sit and work from in all possible postures and positions. All these things can lead to severe back pain and neck pain. And one few words about tech neck syndrome, or it's also called text neck syndrome. How many people who are now seeing now in the road walking like a zombies like this? They're walking, but they're walking like this. So one thing is they can trip and fall down. They can have injuries. And also they get into what is called the tech neck syndrome. This picture is a beautiful picture. When you are upright, head is people call us head weight. The head is heavy for our neck to handle. When you're in a neutral position, 10 to 12 pounds of weight goes into the neck. But when we bend to this level, almost 60 pounds, that 30, around 25 to 30 kg weight goes into this muscle. Our neck muscles have to work extra hard to keep it. So then ultimately we lose that curvature. There should be a C in the neck. We lose that curvature and then become like this. Shoulders become rounded. We become like this. Then we permanently become like this. That puts enormous load on the head and also changes the posture. We should be like this. We become like this. Then we don't have a balance. If we walk like this and you can fall down anywhere, so unless we walk straight. So these are the things which is happening to us without knowing. Knowing is nothing wrong. All of us are addicted to our mobile phones. At least when you are going for a walk, keep it away. I see almost in our apartments, almost 50% of the guys are walking with a mobile. So they went like this and maintain a good posture. Have a, what should I say, mobile stand or something like that. If you want to scroll, you can scroll and still see what you want to see rather than seeing like this. So this can be very protective if you avoid these postures, and all these muscles will be relaxed. Otherwise, you end up with very problems, headache, migraines, chronic neck pain, chronic back pain, breathing difficulties, because become like this chest wall don't expand. It just become tight. It can't expand, and back posture also changes. So it can cause, everything is connected through fascia, head to foot. So any problem happening here can lead to even pain in the thighs, pain in the heel. Something happening in the heel can also cause headache. So it's not like can't isolate, say that it's only neck pain, back pain. These are a few measures. I'll skip through this. And the last few slides, this is my favorite topic. This is rheumatoid arthritis. It's the most common autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis. It starts as a preclinical autoimmunity. You have genetic susceptibility. If you smoke or if you have a poor dental hygiene, you develop autoantibodies and then start developing preclinical autoimmunity and ultimately develop a clinical autoimmune disease. This is the legend for that, explains what's happening. There is a scope for intervention at every stage. The last stage is therapeutics, treatment. The last slide. So that's medical treatment. That is where we come in. Before that, there can be so many things which can be done. There is some evidence. At this moment, we tell the patient that we don't know why it has come. We don't have anything to prevent. Or if you get the disease, we will treat you. But now if we have some knowledge about what is the cause for it, we know the genetic, we cannot change it. We can't change our parents. We can't change our sex. So we are bound by that. So if you are a female, you are more likely to have arthritis. If you're born to a family where arthritis is there, we are more likely. But what determines the epigenetic changes? Genes alone are not enough. Epigenetic changes are required. All the socioeconomic status, tobacco exposure, exposure to vehicle pollution. If you stay closer to a highway, you are more likely to develop rheumatoid arthritis. So staying away, staying in a place like Indian Institute of Science for 10, 15 years, professors don't get rheumatoid arthritis. They have stayed here most of their life. But people like us who stay close to a highways are more likely. And don't forget about microbes. Gut microbiome is the huge topic now. That is the cause. We are more bacterial than human, our genomes. We carry trillions of bacteria and we have only 23,000 genes, no? Correct? No? Human genomes. Okay. When we have trillions of bacterial genes, so we are just host for this bacteria and they educate our immune system. So if you have a good bacteria and that you are less likely to have autoimmune diseases because immune system is educated by the bacteria and what we are exposed. So eating dirt, rolling around in dirt in childhood, having a pet, having worm infestations are all protective against autoimmune diseases. Hygiene, that's called hygiene hypothesis. This is my last few slides. These are the few recommendations, evidence-based recommendation to prevent. Somebody say, my mother has rheumatoid arthritis. What can I do? I have rheumatoid factor positive. What should I do? I have a preclinical autoimmunity. What can I do? At this moment, we can't be 100% sure that she will not develop the disease, but we can advise now to not to smoke, reduce the exposure to dust and pollutants, at least keep the house ventilated, and maintain a healthy weight and height. Leisure time activity, again, social aspect comes. Maintain a dental hygiene because gum disease can cause problems. If you're a woman, if you have pregnancy, keep breastfeeding. Have 2-3 children, breastfeed. That's likely to develop arthritis because that is protective. Maximize dietary quality and reduce high salt. Salt is not good, so chips and not good. And dietary quality means anti-inflammatory food, more fiber-rich food. Omega-3 fatty acids, less sugar. My small amount of alcohol is okay, but can't recommend it, right? In the study says it's okay. And vitamin D replete. Go around in sun and take some vitamin D supplementation. These are protective mechanisms. So if you are looking life as multiple components, environment is a part and parcel of our life, our body. Of course, we have to protect. We live in our body. Lifestyle matters. Spirit means not religion, but having a purpose in life. Our psyche, our emotions, our society. All these things contribute to our well-being. And what we can do in each domain. These are all the protective factors in this category. Body, fit person, good exercise, maintain a good posture, good healthy lifestyle, circadian lifestyle, anti-inflammatory lifestyle, being more physically active versus lack of fitness and obesity. Lifestyle, good sleep, diet, balance. Opposite of that, emotions, joy and happiness and calm. If you are generally a happy person, you are less likely to have problems. And social support, having friends, definitely is protective against many diseases, including musculoskeletal disorders. Having a purpose in life, many times having a purpose in life. Somebody who has, I have to do this for my daughter. My husband died. My daughter is saying, now I have to work. I have to make that daughter a doctor, or engineer, or collector, whatever she wants. That is a purpose in that woman's life throughout their life. That will keep her away from illness. Having a purpose, anything. I'm a doctor now. I'm a busy doctor. After this, I want to do meaningful research activity. So I still have a purpose. Though I'm 58 now, I'm not going to retire. I have a purpose. I want to contribute to science. I've been taking care of patients. That's a need, because when I came, I was the first or second rheumatologist in the state. So now that 30-40 youngsters are there. So now I can devote so if I have a purpose, it's always useful. They'll keep me going mentally and physically. So having a purpose in life, that is important. And mind, optimism is always good. And organized, clean, safe working environment. Always keep your working desk at home, at your workplace, neat and clean, cluster free. You're less likely to have injury. Opposite of all that things can lead to more musculoskeletal injuries. So this is my last slide. We have to have spoken about what we can do. Very simple. We have to exercise more. Keep yourself fit. That's the only way to prevent. That's the only environmental intervention which is shown to prevent, apart from all these things which I'm going to talk. So there is a stress coping account. All of us have a stress. We have a stress coping bank. Put more deposits in the form of sleep better, move well, eat well. Meditation is very good, prolongs life. Very difficult to do though, but prolongs life. Having a purpose in life, have friends, have a happy married life, have fun, and reduce all that stuffs. Less withdrawal, more deposit, we are better off. Thank you very much for patient hearing. I think I've given you a very general talk, not a very scientific medical talk. And I'm open to any discussion, any questions if you have. Yes. Yeah, so their symptoms can be same. When you have pain in the, whether you have rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, or rheumatoid arthritis in the knee, it is going to hurt in the same way. The diagnosis based on the pattern. If you have an arthritis and in a certain distribution, and you also happen to have psoriasis, and you don't have rheumatoid factor or that autoimmune markers of rheumatoid arthritis, then we call it as a psoriatic arthritis. If you have predominantly wear and tear type of arthritis, cartilage loss, and the balance between degeneration and regeneration, then it's tilting little more towards degeneration. You call it as osteoarthritis. All of us have this process going on from the day one. Body is getting to degenerate, we try to regenerate, the balance maintains us. That is why most of us have some problem in the MRI. If you look at the MRI, even 20-year-old guys will have some problem. If you go to a doctor and do MRI, they'll say you have spondylitis. You are a normal man. But the medical term for it is spondylitis. MRI picks it up because it picks up noise as well. So that's the degenerative process is going on. But body is able to compensate very well till late age, unless you are genetically born with a very poor cartilage. It just goes away after 40 years. You can't do anything. You have to get a knee replacement. But otherwise, most people with good health, healthy way of living, we can lead a reasonable quality of life. So that's a different. There are different diseases, a different pattern, different etiologies, different autoimmune patterns, but it can result in pain in the joint. They have different treatment systems.
Any other questions? People are on the website and there are no questions typed. If anybody wants to ask question, please go ahead. Yes.
Yes. Not taking fish. If you don't mind taking fish oil supplements, that is one possibility. And there is also algae oil supplements are available, which are vegetarian sources, but it has got more of a DHA. There's something called docosahexaenoic acid and eicosapentaenoic acid. Confused. It took me 30 years to memorize this. So the DHA is common in algae. Fish oil has got eicosapentaenoic acid as well. Both have their own benefits. Another vegetarian sources of omega-3 fatty acids are flaxseed, flaxseed oil, and some of the walnut and many of the nuts have omega-3 fatty acids. It's a different kind, linoleic acid. It has to get converted into omega-3 fatty acid. You still get reasonable amount of omega-3 from vegetarian source, but the fish and algae sources are the best. But dinner before 7. So that's based on what I explained, based on the circadian rhythm. From time immemorial, we were evolved in akin to this sunset sunrise cycle. So after 7 or 8, it used to be dark, and we never did anything. So people, when they have to forage for food, they could not forage for food. So whatever they do, they have to do it before that. And so we evolved in that cycle. So, and we need time for the, pardon? Yeah, glucose mechanism is melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone which comes, which increases during night. As it becomes darker, blue light comes down, more red light wavelengths are there in the system. Melatonin starts rising from say 6 o'clock in the evening and reaches a peak in the night, and it starts coming down in the early morning. So if you eat when the melatonin is peaking, melatonin has got an inhibitory effect on insulin release in the pancreas. So when you are eating at a time when melatonin levels are high, the pancreas doesn't release insulin when we have a glucose low. It has to increase the insulin to take the insulin out from the circulation, so that it is put into muscle, glycogen, wherever it is stored. So more glucose circulates in the blood, which can lead to glucose toxicity and consequences of hyperglycemia. So, and eating also, first hour of morning, melatonin is coming down. So don't eat in the first hour of morning, and after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, maximum you can put. After that, if you avoid eating, that is good. And our systems, the gastrointestinal system, every system needs a rest to repair and recoup. If you eat at 11 o'clock and sleep, it takes about 5 to 6 hours to complete the digestion process. Eat at 7. At least by midnight, your digestion, everything is done. But there is enough time for the system to recuperate. Many intestinal cells are one cell line cells. They have to repair and regenerate. So we give some time for body to recoup. So that time we are not giving. If you are taking it in the night, whole night you are sleeping with the digestion process going on, and that will not allow you to go into a deep REM, non-REM sleep. So these sleep quality may suffer, and for overall health, obesity is much more common. It is very well documented that people who eat same calories, same stuff, instead of eating at 10 o'clock, eating at 7 o'clock, they lose weight. They lose weight. They don't change any calories. 2,400 calories, same amount, same food. Last meal at 7, or last meal versus 10. 7 p.m. guys lose weight. So that's circadian cycle. So it is based on that more than that. But also you don't get acid reflux. Otherwise you see stomach is moving, right down, the patient comes up and gets into a throat, wake up with a cough. So it is good to have energy.
Any other questions? I think unfortunately our chairman is an orthopedic surgeon. He had such an emergency, unavoidable situation, he couldn't able to make it. That's why I'm taking some of his suggestions. I think you covered very well, sir. I'm really very grateful for making it time for it. Few of the suggestions you mentioned about it, exercise, very important. You did mention about it. Now our education program has there. It is to be called extracurricular activity. Now we call it curricular activity. It is a must. We have to have it as a WHO guideline is there. That we have to do it. In 2014, Padova University ourselves, we did a study. How many children in Bangalore do the exercise? At least for half an hour, anything like that. 27% of the children between the age group of 5 to 15 years never had any exercise in Bangalore. This is a fact. No, all of them having a finger exercise. A lot of them, we couldn't say that. That is one thing, and also using the red light in the night. That's it. I think that's a good idea. That is something we learned about it. And melatonin, you highlighted very well. That's an hormone secreted only at night time. Definitely, it helps a healing process from any viral infections or environmental pollution. It is a healing process. It is called the pineal gland is called third eye of Parmeshwara. Third eye it is called. It comes from the only two hormones will secrete in the night time. Melatonin for healing process, and you become tall and the growth hormone comes only. Growth hormone. Those are all the two hormones comes in the night time. I think you should have a good night's sleep as a matter of fact. And in addition to that, snack on exercise snacking. I think that's one of the finest thing. I think what you suggested, this has already been WHO recommended this from the Lifestyle University in the Atlanta, Georgia. Ron Kirk was the chief of that one. We are very close friend, and there are that osteopath. He's an osteopath. Osteopath, they did it. Those three exercises when you're sitting continuously doing all this thing, at least one to 2 hours once, you spend about 1 minute time for the exercise. They said 3 animals they've taken from yoga. They've taken. I was one of the person involved in that one. The WHO recommended that those 3 exercise. What you're standing, you can do this one. What you rightly pointed out. And while sitting here only or standing here only, so 3 birds you regard. Eagle. 10 times you do. Yes, 10 times you do it. Second thing is hummingbird. Hummingbird exercise will be reaching our knowledge, clapping that one. So that 10 times you do. And next is butterfly. Imitate butterfly. Butterfly, what happens? Put your both hands together in the back. Try press backwards. Just like this. 10 times. And afterwards, just massage these neck muscles. These do 1 minute every hour or 2. I think you can do it. This is what it is. We have to emulate our birds, eagle and hummingbird and butterfly. You want to be a leader? You have to imitate 3 animals. What are those animals? Donkey. You should be a donkey. You should be a dog. You should be a crow. Donkey means you want to be a leader, take the burden of everybody. Don't complain, he did like that, he did like that. Why do you have to do this one? You're a leader, take that one. You have to be a donkey. Dog, 49% didn't vote for you, 51% voted for you. Don't show your anger on them. Take along with you. Forget, dog master scores, immediately becomes something. That is the quality. Crow, if it sees any food, anything, it won't eat itself. They call everything. So these are all the things. Kannadದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ನೀನ್ ಲೀಡರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕತ್ತೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾಯಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಕಾಗೆ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಕತ್ತೆಯ ತನ, ನಾಯಿಯ ಮನ, ಕಾಗೆಯ ಸ್ತನ. That's what we tell in Calcutta. These are all some of the values. One has to keep it in that one. Anyway, I'm very thankful, sir. And also, tech neck syndrome is the one important thing we have to worry about. Even accident happen more on that and they don't know. Today, our 2-3 people, our driver, I would have hit somebody else. That lady walk anything like that, they're walking around, even honk twice. In our religion, suddenly it went stop, suddenly. Oh, sorry. Like it, I think, please avoid while walking. I think exercise, you should not use it. And also use the diet and everything. I think our nutritional guideline of India, WHO says, you have to have less salt, less sugar, less oil. And also eat 10% less. If you want 2 chapati, eat 1.5 chapati, that make your weight less. These are all the simple things we have to adopt in this one. And also alcohol, you said about little alcohol, wine has got antioxidant. So that's why the recent studies have come that I think some of the, if you take 2 glasses of wine per day or 2 cans of beer, your lifespan will be enhanced by 18%. I think some of the liquor company might have been involved in this. That's a fact. But they have been recommended. We don't recommend for children. 1 glass of wine or something small amount. It has got antioxidant. Red wine has got a little more antioxidant than the white wine. So having said that one, you covered all those things very well, sir. We are grateful for that one. And on behalf of the DCCC and climate change, we have a small memento. We like to give it to you. We request our professor to come and hand over this one to you. Let us have a group photo, please.